Thanks, Tina. Well, it's been a frenetic day. You may or may not understand what exactly is going on with those liability-driven investments of pension funds we were talking about earlier, and that lie at the root of some of the turmoil. But you will understand the fallout of all of this. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking mortgages and housing and the changing situation there. Let's just hear some reaction to today's news from people in Sunderland.
We're sort of going back to the 80s now with these interest rates. It's very concerning because unless you've got a long-term fixed rate, somewhere these rates are going to catch up to you.
When I heard the news the other day, I thought, oh no. I'd already looked and it was going to be about nearly £100 a month more. How are people going to afford it?
Definitely feel like I can't really even think about buying a house at the minute because of the current mortgage rates. And I do have a job, so I do make a stable income, but even then I feel like I couldn't really afford it.
Yeah, it's in the housing and mortgage markets that a lot of this will manifest itself. We have with me in the studio Henry Pryor, a buying agent and housing expert, and on the line Claer Barratt, consumer editor of the Financial Times. Welcome both. Henry, I know someone who's exchanging on a property this week, a first-time buyer, young guy. What's he meant to do? I mean, because suddenly people are talking about the market falling 10% in the next year and that kind of stuff.
Well, he's one of those people, Evan, who is vulnerable. He's probably locked into a mortgage rate that was computed 6 weeks, possibly 8 weeks ago. So he's probably pretty safe for the time being. And if he's been well advised and is sensible, he's probably on a fixed rate mortgage, possibly for 2 years, hopefully for 5. So he's one of those people who is somewhat exposed. But the people we're really looking out for are the 2 million people coming off standard variable mortgages at the moment. And obviously the 100,000 people coming off fixed rate products every month going forward. They are going to be having a very rude awakening. Yeah, coming out of one world and into another. Just in terms of what's happening in the housing market, though, Henry, are people suddenly pulling deals? Are they suddenly saying, hang on, I need to renegotiate this? Is the market locked up or is it still functioning? What's going on out there? Well, it's important to remember, Evan, that if I knew the answers to these, I wouldn't be in the studio. I'd be on my yacht in the Mediterranean laughing into a martini. We will see a change to the market inevitably because the cost of credit and the availability of credit is what drives prices. So house prices look like they will fall over the foreseeable future, but there's still no evidence they're going to crash. The concern for those who are buying houses at the moment is if they like the house and they can afford it and they're confident they can continue to afford it, and so long as rates don't go up much more, then this is probably the new normal that we're returning to that hasn't been there for the last 15 or 16 years. All right, Claire, let's do some news you can use for our listeners. What should listeners be doing? My fixed mortgage, say, runs out in 6 months, a year. What can I be doing? What do I need to be doing? Because I may be on 2%, 1.8% and looking at 5%.
Well, I mean, prepare to pay more. Eventually, everybody is the unfortunate answer. But I mean, at the moment, it's just so terrible. People's happiness now directly correlates with how long they've got left on their mortgage fix. Now, if it is ticking to 6 months or less, then you do need to speak to a mortgage broker, start looking for a new deal. Perhaps not this week, because all of the mortgage lenders have paused to gather breath. Lots of rates and deals have been pulled. They need to reprice. The market needs to restart again. And hopefully the Bank of England's actions in the gilt markets today will speed that along. But you need to know when your deal expires. If it's further out, people are then looking at the possibility of should they pay in order to get out of their current fix and remortgage. And that's a really, really difficult decision because they could be looking at paying thousands
to
do so.
Pay a penalty to get out of your fixed rate and lock into a higher rate. Because because you think it may go even higher.
You're losing twice, aren't you? You're parting with a big sum of cash and then you're locking into a high rate, but you're doing that with the fear that rates will get even higher in the future if you don't. Now, some people are saying, well, if my rate doesn't expire for like 2 years or more, why would I risk doing that? Because if we do go into a recession, what normally happens in recession interest rates start to come down. But the word normal at the moment, you just can't give any credence. What is normal? What we have seen happen on financial markets today most certainly is not this huge accident that has happened. The Bank of England having to make an emergency intervention. It's what is uniting all of us, I think, at the moment, rich or poor, regardless of political leanings, is how worried we all are about how this is going to turn out for our finances.
A lot of repricing going on. Claire, I was looking at one bank and I saw it quoting its mortgage prices on the web today, and they didn't seem to have changed in the last week. Something like a 3.8% for a 5-year fixed rate mortgage. Now, is that because they just don't update their website, or are those prices there if you want them? Can you get those, or is that just that they're quoting? Henry is shaking his head here in the studio, so you might see it quoted, but you won't get it if you phone up. Is that right?
It could be that updating the website is the lowest of their priorities at the moment. I mean, we know that those who are offering the best rates are just being deluged with callers, and that's been the case for some time. It hasn't changed. It's just got worse in the last few days.
Be like trying to get a GP appointment.
Exactly. But if you can afford to overpay your mortgage, if you are locked into a long rate for a long time, that is something that is seriously worth considering doing, particularly seeing as the performance of investment markets at the moment is not great.
Get it
and
down
the interest rates on savings accounts.
Exactly.
Get it down but
before.
Obviously
money,
people it's like spare wine in recipes.
Exactly. Very much.
Doesn't exist for many of us.
Just a quick final one, Henry. For renters, what are the implications of all of this? Because on the one hand, their landlords may be seeing their costs go up and wanting to pass higher rents on. But I don't know, is there an implication for renters?
Well, there's inevitably going to be some knock-on into the rented sector. It's adding to the already pressures that we're seeing there. There's going to be more people looking to rent properties who won't be able to afford to buy them. And inevitably there will be landlords who will be looking, but not necessarily always being able, to pass on the additional costs that they're seeing. And obviously we're seeing lots of landlords leaving the sector as a result of changes that have come in recently, which is adding to the pressure of supply and demand.
Henry Pryor, Claer Barratt, thank you both for talking us through all of that.